This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Last time on Delightful Travelers, we ventured over to the Isle of Man to check out what the island has to offer. This place surprised us and we already can't wait to go back again. In this video, we arrived to Glasgow, Scotland. We're beyond excited to explore the city, eat delicious food, and maybe have a pint or two.
I'm Anna, and this is Trevor. In this series, we're exploring the UK. Make sure to hit subscribe and click the like button so you don't miss a single video. A huge thanks to our channel members and patrons for making these videos possible. Welcome to Glasgow.
I'm on my way now. I'm on my way now. I'm on my way now.
Well, good morning everyone and welcome to Glasgow, Scotland. It has been at least 8 years since we have been in the UK and Scotland for that matter.
Well, particularly in Scotland. I can't believe it's been that long. If you've been following along, you know that we were just on a cruise. We've actually got off. They let us off in Glasgow. We're now on our own to explore for a couple of weeks here in the UK, but starting things off here in Glasgow. So funny enough, this is not our first time here to Glasgow, but it is our first time filming. This is a fun little story for those of you that have been watching us for a very long time. The very first time that we ever filmed, that we ever really picked up a camera and started this whole YouTube journey, we started and ended here in Glasgow. We basically landed on a plane and then got on a train and went to Edinburgh, and on our way out back to Canada, we had one night here and we fell in love with the city, but just like very, very quickly. We had no time here. We couldn't wait to come back. So eight years later, so excited.
And the thing is, we actually didn't film.
No, we didn't film anything.
Time.
We didn't film. We just didn't have enough time, and we were really exhausted by the end of like our first ever 3-week trip that we ever took.
You guys probably noticed this massive cathedral behind us here. This is the Glasgow Cathedral, and get this, it was built between, are you ready, 1136 and 1484. It's now Scotland's largest place of worship, and honestly, it is just massive.
So this cathedral is in the Gothic architecture style. It looks really cool inside, but I tried to look up the rules for filming, which some of you might not know. In certain places can be a little bit tricky, and it sounds like we need permission in order to film in there, so we're not going in today. I would have loved to, but I think we would have had to plan that a little while in advance. You also can't really see it from here, but the tower in the back is under construction. Does that seem to happen to everyone else whenever they go anywhere in the summertime to like these famous places and it's always under construction?
So one thing that's kind of neat about where the cathedral is right next to it is this impressive cemetery?
Yeah, it's called the Glasgow Necropolis. You can kind of see a glimpse of it when you're over at the cathedral, and it's built kind of on a hill, so it looks really neat.
Maybe to some people this seems a little morbid, I'm not sure, but we've been to some impressive graveyards or cemeteries around the world, so we always try to make it a point to stop at them. This one's interesting because look, there's the location of the cathedral, and then right behind me, we're starting to climb. You can see kind of like these walls and really big graves up there.
So I would say even if you're not into visiting cemeteries, it's worth coming up here just for the views alone. Plus you get a little bit of exercise because you have to walk up the hill. But once you're up here, if you are into the cemetery thing, there are lots of beautiful tombs and monuments here. It's a little bit haunting, a little bit quiet. It's really nice. I really don't know my Scottish history that well, so I don't really recognize any names, but, at least so far anyway. But apparently this cemetery is full of very famous Glaswegians. Glaswegians?
What the heck is a Glaswegian? That's the first time I've ever heard of that.
Apparently that's what you call people from Glasgow. And I was actually reading that a kind of slang funny term that you call them for short is a Ouija.
A Ouija?
A Ouija.
Almost sounds like I would insult someone if I called them.
Is that insulting? That's what I read online, so if that's an insulting term, I'm sorry.
Trying to figure out what to call people from the city that they're from is always interesting. Like if you would have asked me and didn't say that, I would have said like Glasgonians or something, because we're from Halifax in Nova Scotia, not in the UK, and we call ourselves Haligonians, and Glasgonians seems to work, but Glaswegians, Ouijas, I like it. Take a look at the size of this one. This belongs to Walter Macfarlane from 1885. That just blows my mind. Most of the graves up here are from the 1800s. Now here's what I like about this place. Besides all the beautiful graves, there's a beautiful green space here with walking paths. You can just walk for a very long time. You're gonna get tired doing so, and because of that, you're gonna work up an appetite. And speaking of that, we're hungry. It's time to get some food.
Before we get any further in the video, we want to say a huge thank you to Squarespace, who is back again to sponsor this week's video.
Hopefully by now you guys know how much we love Squarespace. We've literally built a business around it and our website and blog.
Speaking of our website, they make it so easy for us to feature our travel content from photo galleries to video sections to our blog. The blog even has a great built-in commenting system that supports threaded comments, replies, and likes so that we can respond to all of your questions and comments.
We also love how easy it is to use and understand their analytics, so we can see how many people are coming to our site, how long they're staying on our site, and what content and pages they are visiting, which makes it so much easier to plan our upcoming website content. Are you ready to build your own website? Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, head to squarespace.com/delightfultravelers for 10% off your first purchase of a domain or website.
And of course, a huge thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video and supporting creators like us. We have just come over to a place called Merchant Chippie, and I just learned that Chippie is a short term for a place that sells fish and chips here in Scotland. However, today we are not eating fish and chips. I'm sure we'll have them in a future video. But the nice thing about Chippies is that they sell lots of very Scottish foods, different types of Scottish foods. So today we got a couple of things, and we are starting with a Scotch Pie. I have no idea how to eat this. I just kind of dug into it, but I actually assumed this would be a hand pie. It's not, however, that. So we're gonna eat it with a fork. I was reading about the history of these. They were traditionally made with mutton, but nowadays it's more so either beef or lamb.
Should we explain what mutton is? I think some people might not know.
Well, I don't even know because I guess it's sheep.
It's
like
sheep, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see how it is. Try it out.
So I couldn't tell you what type of meat this is actually made with. Maybe it's beef, maybe it's lamb, maybe it is mutton. I'm not really sure, but whatever it is honestly delicious. It's very, very savory. It's very, very hearty, a little bit salty. It kind of reminds me of like stuffing or dressing that you would have with turkey dinner at home in Canada. It's really good.
How do you possibly take something that is unhealthy and make it even more unhealthy? Well, I have the answer for you. This is a Mars bar that has been deep fried. Yes, a deep fried Mars bar. It's a Scottish thing apparently. I've never heard of it. We've never heard of this. All I know is it looks really intense. I've never even, who would have thought about deep frying a chocolate bar? A Mars bar for that matter, but we're gonna try this out. It doesn't look super appetizing. I'm gonna feel very gluttonous and very unhealthy, but you know, we just gotta take a bite of this glorious looking thing. Let's go for it. Wow. So they clearly put batter on the outside of this thing, and because it goes in the deep fryer at such a high heat, it actually melts the bar. So it ends up being this really gooey, caramelly, chocolate mess of deliciousness. Look at that thing. I mean, you all probably know what a Mars bar tastes like. It is one of the better chocolate bars. But I didn't realize it would get even better if you just deep fry the thing. So maybe the magic ingredient here is what it's kind of like the batter, but I don't know, you guys, this is so good. It kind of sticks to your teeth on the inside. It's all melted. Oh yeah. I didn't think I was going to eat all of this when we started because it was too much, but this is all mine. I'm not sharing with Anna at all.
So we are just making our way into the city center. It's really fun to walk around and see all this historic stuff. There's like this clock tower kind of thing right behind me. We're just eating right under that basically. But before we get where we're going, let's talk about a few facts for you. You probably already know that Edinburgh is in fact the capital of Scotland, not Glasgow, but Glasgow is the bigger city. It has almost 2 million people in the entire metropolitan area. It is, as I just said, the biggest city in Scotland, but it's also the third biggest city by population in the entire UK.
Well, it doesn't take long to find bagpipers around Scotland, that's for sure,
Yeah,
huh?
were you actually in Scotland if you didn't hear any bagpipers?
Exactly. Now, right now we're on some kind of walking pedestrian street, but we need to go back to Edinburgh for a second. So you just mentioned that.
Yeah.
That city is absolutely gorgeous. We're not going back to it this time around on this journey because we've been before, but we find it a bit more touristy than here.
It is. So I would say Edinburgh is super beautiful. Definitely a more beautiful city than Glasgow.
100% more visually beautiful, like the buildings and the architecture. It's kind of the gem when it comes to, for tourists anyway.
But we were just discussing, there's something about Glasgow that feels a little bit more maybe authentic, or like it's like feels like where the actual
Scottish people live.
Yes.
Like it feels like like a working man city. I think that's what it was at one point. Now it's a really nice mixture of new buildings and old buildings and young people.
I was gonna say there's a lot of young people because I think there's a ton of universities here too, and that always makes the city really interesting, I think.
Yeah, and when you have universities, it also brings in hipster coffee shops, craft beer places. I mean,
great restaurants.
Great restaurants. It has everything, and then streets like this, which honestly just add to the city. Well, one thing we can't help but notice is all the graffiti around here. We keep coming across it, huh?
Yeah, loads of amazing street art pretty much at every corner. It's easy to miss sometimes. You'll just be walking by a street and then kind of glance up and see something really, really amazing. I don't remember that from last time we were here. Again, it was 8 years ago. We only had a night here, so we could have just missed it. But it might be something that's really new here. And it kind of goes back to what we said about the city being like really, really authentic and real and vibrant. Street art always plays hand in hand with that.
We've run into some more bagpipers. These guys look a little more official. Right now we're down by the river and yeah, more graffiti. So this stuff I wouldn't say is as impressive as the big murals that are on the buildings, but it's still pretty cool. There's like graffiti everywhere. We got this really old bridge behind us. And I mentioned a river, and it might not be apparent when you're in Glasgow that this place is like on a series of rivers, huh?
Yeah, this is the River Clyde. It's, I guess, the main waterway coming into the city, but not a lot seems to be on it.
Nope.
So you kind of have to make purposefully make your way down here. You can walk along it basically, but I don't think there's a lot of like restaurants or anything like that down here.
No, it's actually really beautiful. Maybe at night there'll be like kind of like evening boat tours or sunset tours or something like that, but really
right here seems like the perfect spot to set up like a coffee shop or a little bar or something, but it's not here.
This bridge is super cool. You have this big archway, and I'm just realizing now it's actually a pedestrian bridge, so that's neat. It's not like for cars or anything.
It's very neat. It's nice, and again, going back to this like finding quiet, serene places in the city, it's pretty chill down here.
It's funny, there's more actual seagulls than people.
Definitely.
There are a few people walking around, and you will find some bikers as well. So this is just honestly a really cool area of the city. Again, not expecting to find something like
Yeah, I
this.
see people biking. There are bike lanes here, and I think it would be a great place to come for some exercise, to go for a run without worried about people and things getting in your way.
We've just come over to a place called Scotia Bar, and this is the oldest bar in all of Glasgow. It goes back to something like the 1700s. It's really, really cool here. When I think of a Scottish pub, this is exactly what I think of. There's all these different nooks and crannies, there's different rooms in here, and you can see all these different pictures in the room we're in right now, and there's all this wood and leather, but more importantly, we got a beer. It's Tennant's, and I think it's a very classic Scottish beer. It is a lager. I'll quickly try it just because I know you guys like when we try the beer. It's not craft beer though, it's the domestic beer. Nice and cold. In a previous video, I got a cask, and I usually like casks, but I always find them a little warm. This was not on a cask, it was on a tap, so it's nice and cold. We've been walking around a lot today already, so this is just really refreshing.
So as you heard Trevor just say, this is called Scotia Bar. So a little bit of trivia for you guys. Do you know what Scotia means? There's a reason I know the answer to this. It's actually a Latin word that just means Scotland. It's the Latin translation for Scotland. The reason I know this is that we are from Nova Scotia, or New Scotland, which is a province in Canada. Does that make us honorary Scots, do you think?
I mean, they must be happy that we're here. We must be honorary Scots.
Yeah, the old Scots, we're the new Scots and the old Scots.
It does feel kind of very homey being here, though. There's something about just walking around, the seagulls sound the same, the weather is maritime-y.
And yes, we do have a lot of bagpipes and people in kilts. You're going to come across that a lot in Nova Scotia as well.
The thing is, as cool as this place is, we're about to take you from the oldest bar in all of Scotland to one of the most trendiest bars in all of Scotland. Welcome to the Bookclub. This is a really historic building that is super hipster and super trendy inside. You can see these high ceilings. There's 2 floors. There's even ping pong tables if that's what you want to do, and also really cool arcade machines. We got another beer. This time it is Drygate. I'll try this in just a second. It's actually a gluten-free Pilsner. I've never had a gluten-free beer before. I just thought I'd try it out. Why not? It's nice and cold, and it's a light beer. It's early in the day, so there's not many people here right now, but how about this place, you guys? How about this place? Let's try it out. Yeah, gonna do the trick today. The thing is, I don't really know how to tell a gluten-free beer. I've never had one. If you didn't tell me, I wouldn't even know, but this is gonna really hit the spot. It's nice and cold, nice and refreshing, and I think it's also from Glasgow.
I don't think Trevor mentioned that it is the next day. We just walked over to the West End. It was quite a long walk from our hotel, but gotta get that exercise in. Funny enough, I know we mentioned we were here in Glasgow once before, but for a very short time, but we did actually come to the West End, and it's something we never ever forgot. We've been to probably 45 different countries since we were here last, but for some reason this like neighborhood kind of stayed in our head. But this place in particular, we actually came to Book Club like 8 years ago, and I've never forgot this place. It was just so memorable. I just remember all like the arcades. I think at the time they actually had rooms where people were playing like video games and stuff. I don't know if they still have
In
that.
our memory, though, we thought this was a church.
Yeah, I did think it was a church, but it just, I guess it was just mixing it up with this. I guess it would be easy to confuse. It's very historic in here. There's also like church pews and stuff as some of the tables. So I guess it would make sense that we'd confuse that.
The other thing we really remember about the West End is it's really, really trendy. Dare I even say it's the Brooklyn of Glasgow. It very well could be. I think there's some universities around, so that really helps add to all like the coffee shops, the amazing restaurants. There's just so many cool places to go like this. It's funny how we remember that even 8 years ago, like that stood out, and we always knew if we came back to Glasgow, we had to come to the West End. So the plan now is to finish up the beer, and we are going to try to take you guys outside just so you can kind of see the street and get the lay of the land.
We have just come over to Ashton Lane. Does it get any more Scottish and cute than this? This actually came recommended by somebody on Instagram. We love it when you guys give us recommendations when we are in a city. So follow us on Instagram if you're not already doing that, so you can know where we are in real time and then can help us out wherever we are.
What we're wondering is how much does it cost to live in the West End of Glasgow, Scotland? We travel all the time. We're looking for places to live as we travel. We'd like to come back here and spend a month at a time, but I don't know. This feels pretty trendy. It feels pretty hipster. It feels like it costs a lot of money, and we're not quite sure, so we'll put that out to you guys. Let us know in the comments, like how much is it to rent an apartment here, right here in the West End of Glasgow, or maybe even like for a week. Now I have to say a month, you get a discount at least, but I bet it's a lot of money, a lot of pounds. I'm so glad we came over to the West End today. As we said, we remembered it from like 8 years ago. We came back and it's more or less the same.
I think so. I don't remember that much other than the book club place, but remember thinking it's a really cool neighborhood. I'm sure people that have lived here for a while probably are going to say, of course it's changed a lot in the last 8 years. But
what city hasn't,
based off my
right?
memory, yeah.
Like we did get one taxi while we were here, and right away, we told them we were here 8 years ago, and they said, "Oh, it's changed so much." And I mean, every place has changed so much in the last 8 years, that's for sure. But I still have fond memories of this West End of Glasgow, and I'm glad we came back. It's so much fun, so cool. We went back to the same kind of that old building, that brewery, book club.
And I know for you guys, like we haven't really explained it that much. We kind of harped, or like you mentioned it a little bit at the beginning, but like this is kind of where our YouTube journey began, where we didn't even YouTube, but it kind of, we didn't even make a video at the time, but it's fun to come back.
8 years ago we started this adventure on YouTube. We kind of just dilly-dallied in it for the first few years. You guys always ask us, and then we got a little bit more serious about it, but
so
cool.
The last few days it felt a little bit full circle.
Yeah, it feels full circle, coming back to our roots. So if you guys got this far in the video, we really appreciate it. It's Trevor and Hannah, Delightful Travelers. Hit subscribe. If you're new around here, make sure to do that. Hit the like button, it helps us out. If you're not new, thanks for tuning in. We're on a UK adventure. We're heading south from this point out.
Yeah, I think the next video is either going to be based on a little town or maybe some more Scottish food. We have yet to decide what to do, but you'll find out in the next video.
We're planning all this on the fly still, but we really appreciate you guys tuning in each and every single week.
All right, guys, that's it.
From Glasgow, wishing you delightful travels.
See you soon.